Greetings to Mr. Vijay and my fellow friends. Today, I will present my reflection on an ESL teaching video titled How to Teach Reading Skills under the topic of natural disasters. The lesson is conducted for grade 4 students and focuses on developing students' reading skills. So, reflection is very important for teachers because it helps us analyze our teaching and improve our future lessons. According to Donald, teachers should reflect on their teaching practices in order to become more effective educators. In this presentation, I will analyze the teacher's teaching strategies, classroom interaction, and learning activities. I will also relate this reflection to my own teaching experience during my practicum. To guide my reflection, I will use the Jeeps reflective cycle, which is a widely used reflective model in education. The lesson shown in the video is an ESL reading lesson for grade 4 students. The topic of the lesson is natural disasters. The teacher introduced four types of natural disasters, which are thunderstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and volcanoes. The main objective of the lesson is to help students understand new vocabulary and improve their reading comprehension. During the lesson, the teacher uses several teaching strategies such as questioning, repetition, visual aids, and interactive games. The students are also actively involved in answering questions and participating in class activities. The teacher also divides the class into boys and girls and gives points to encourage participation, which creates a competitive and engaging learning environment. Overall, the lesson focuses on vocabulary development, reading comprehension, and also student engagement. To analyze the lesson, I used the Gibbs reflective cycle developed by Graham Gibbs. This model consists of six stages, which is description, feelings, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and also action plan. This reflective model helps teachers think deeply about their teaching experiences. By following these stages, teachers can identify strengths, weakness, and also the areas for improvement in their teaching practices. In the following slides, I will apply this model to reflect on the ESL lesson shown in the video. First, I will describe what happened in the lesson. The teacher begins the lesson by checking classroom rules and reviewing what students learned previously. This helps to activate the students' prior knowledge. And next, the teacher introduces the topic natural disaster and asks students what they think the book will be about, which encourage the students to think and predict the lesson content. The teacher then introduces several vocabulary words such as thunderstorm, hurricane, tornado, and volcano, which students have to repeat the words together to practice the pronunciation. The teacher also explains the meaning of these words and shows videos and images of natural disasters to help students understand the concepts better. In addition, the teacher asks many questions during the lesson where the students are invited to answer questions and participate in activities. For example, the teacher asks a student to identify the difference between hurricanes and tornadoes. Later in the lesson, the teacher introduces a game where a student is blindfolded and spins like a tornado, which this activity makes the lesson fun and interactive while reinforcing the topic. At the end of the lesson, the teacher reviews the vocabulary and asks students to copy notes into their notebooks. Next is the feeling stage of the reflection. While watching the video, I felt that the lesson was very engaging and interactive. The teacher created a positive classroom environment where students felt more comfortable and they feel really actively participating in those activities. The students looked excited and interested throughout the lesson, where they used of games, videos, and competitions help maintain their attention as well. So I also felt that the teacher had strong classroom management skills, where the teacher reminded the students about classroom rules, encouraged them to participate respectfully. So as a future ESL teacher, I felt inspired by the teacher's ability to create an enjoyable learning environment. It showed me that learning English can be fun and interactive when appropriate teaching strategies are used. So now I would like to discuss the strengths and weaknesses of the lesson. First, one of the strength is student engagement, where the teacher actively involves students by asking questions and encouraging participation. So, secondly, the teacher used visual aids such as videos and images. These materials help students understand natural disaster more clearly because they could see the real examples. Third, the teacher used repetition and pronunciation practice, where the students repeated vocabulary words several times, which helps improve their language learning and also their uh, vocabulary strength. Fourth, the teacher created a supportive learning environment. When students made mistakes, the teacher reminded them that making mistake is part of learning. This helps build students' confidence, and also they would also remind the mistakes as well. However, one possible limitation is that the lesson focused heavily on teacher led questioning. There were fewer opportunities for students to discuss ideas with their classmates, since we are more concentrated in student centered learning. So, from the video, I can see that it is more teacher centered learning. In this stage, I will analyze the teacher's strategies using the maxims of teaching, which are important principles that guide effective teaching and learning. First, the teacher applied the maxim from known to unknown. At the beginning of the lesson, the teacher asked students what they learned in the previous lesson and what they think the topic is about. This helped activate students' prior knowledge. When students connect new information with what they already know, learning becomes easier and more meaningful. This is especially important in ESL classrooms because students need to relate new vocabulary to familiar concepts. Second, the teacher applied the maxim from simple to complex. The lesson started with simple vocabulary such as storm and rain before moving to complex terms like hurricane, tornado, and also volcano. After that, teacher explained more detailed concepts such as the difference between hurricanes and tornadoes, and also the scientific ideas like the speed of light and how volcanoes work. This step by step progression helps students build their understanding gradually without feeling overwhelmed. Third, the teacher used the maxim from concrete to abstract. The teacher showed videos and real life images of natural disasters. These visual materials help students understand abstract concepts. For example, instead of just explaining what a tornado is, the teacher showed an actual video of a tornado. This makes learning more realistic and also helps students remember better. Visual learning is very effective for young learners, especially in ESL contexts. Next, the teacher applied the maxim learning by doing. Students were not only listening but also actively participating. For example, the teacher included games such as the tornado spinning game and also the quiz questions. These activities allowed students to learn through experience. When students are physically and mentally involved, they are more engaged and motivated. Another important maxim is used in the video is repetition and reinforcement. The teacher asks students to repeat vocabulary words many times, such as natural disaster, hurricane, and also tornado. Repetition helps students improve pronunciation and remember new words. This is very important in ESL learning because students need more exposure to new vocabulary. In addition, the teacher applied the maxim encouragement and motivation. The teacher created a positive environment by telling students that it's okay to make mistakes. This reduces students' anxiety and increases their confidence in using English. The competition between boys and girls also motivated students to participate actively. Uh, in real life classroom, there is boys and girl, there is a versus between boys and girls, so the students will be more competitive between them, so that's makes the classroom engagement better. However, from a critical perspective, there are also some areas that can be improved. For example, the lesson is mostly teacher centered, where the teacher asks question and students respond. There are limited opportunities for students centered interaction, like such as pair work or group discussion. In ESL classrooms, communication between students is more important to develop their speaking skills. So overall, the teachers successfully applied many important teaching maxims, which made the lesson engaging, structured, and also effective for young ESL learners. Now, I will relate this lesson to my own teaching experience during my practicum. During my practicum, I taught English lesson to primary school students and I experienced similar situations as shown in the video. Firstly, I realized that student engagement is very important. When I conducted lessons using only textbooks, students become bored and less interested. However, when I included activities such as games, pictures, and questioning, students become more active and willing to participate. This is similar to the teacher in the video who used games and competition to maintain students' interest. Secondly, I also apply the strategy of repetition and vocabulary practice. For example, when teaching new words, I ask students to repeat the words and use them in simple sentences. I noticed that repetition helps students remember vocabulary better. This is the same strategy used by the teacher in the video. Third, I learned the importance of using visual aids. During my practicum, I used flashcards a lot. Flashcards, pictures, and sometimes videos to explain new vocabulary. Students understood the lesson better when they could see images. In the video, the teacher used real life videos and about hurricanes and volcanoes, which made the lesson more interesting and meaningful. In addition, I also experienced the importance of creating a supportive learning environment. Some students were shy and afraid to speak English because they were afraid of making mistakes. When I encouraged them and told them that mistakes are part of learning, they become more confident in speaking in front of their friends. This is clearly shown in the video where the teacher tells students that it's okay to make mistakes. However, reflecting on my own teaching, I realized that I need to improve in certain areas. For example, sometimes my lessons are still too teacher centered. Even my supervisor told me that I used most of my lesson is teacher centered, so I changed it to more student centered activities such as group work, pair discussion, and collaborative tasks. Will help my students practice communication skills more effectively. I also learned that the lesson planning is very important, where the teacher in the video plan the lesson well, starting from introduction, the presentation, production, and also the closure. This shows a clear structure in the class. In my practicum, I sometimes face challenges in managing time and organizing activities smoothly. Therefore, I need to improve my lesson planning skills. So, lastly, these reflections help me understand that being an effective ESL teacher requires continuous improvement. By reflecting on my teaching experiences and learning from other teachers, I can develop better teaching strategies. In conclusion, this lesson has given me valuable insights into effective ESL teaching, and I will apply these strategies in my future classroom. So, in conclusion, reflective practice plays an important role in improving teaching effectiveness. By analyzing this ESL lesson using the Gibbs reflective cycle, I learned that successful teaching involves engaging students, using clear explanation, and also providing interactive learning opportunities. The teacher in the video demonstrated effective teaching strategies such as questioning, visual aids, repetition, and also classroom interaction, which is very important. As a future ESL teacher, I believe that reflection will help me continuously improve my teaching practices and also create a meaningful learning experiences for my student. So that's all from me. Thank you.